So first, let's talk about what MLA is. So MLA is a group of professional scholars who create and periodically update a universal set of guidelines for citing any type of source. The reason we should care about MLA is that it will allow us to be able to allow our readers to retrace our research steps, meaning that if you find a source that talks about a topic, you want to make it easy for your reader to be able to find that source as well in case they want to do their own research. It also helps you build your credibility and be more likely to win an argument. It'll allow you to give credit to the people who have done the work and want to talk about. It'll also allow you to avoid a charge of plagiarism, which is really important when you're doing college level reading and writing. There are two things you want to keep track of. First are in-text citations and your works cited page. So we're going to go over both of those. For your in-text citations, these are also called parenthetical notations or parenthetical citations. And these are how citations are handled within the essay. And it determines what needs to be cited. So when you're trying to decide what you should cite in your paper, you want to cite anything that doesn't come from you. So this includes direct quotes, paraphrasing another source's research, theories or ideas, another source's argument or opinions, facts that are not commonly known, another source's visuals, tables, graphs, images, statistics, etc. Any of this will need to be cited. For your works cited page, this is often called a bibliography or annotated bibliography, and it is a complete list of all sources used in your paper, located on the last page of your essay. It is specific and it needs to be in this easy to follow format that is the MLA style. So the format that is MLA style is pretty easy once you get to know how to do it, and the 8th edition in particular has made it even simpler, so we're going to go over that as well. So let's first start with in-text citation, since this is probably the first thing you're going to encounter if you're reading an essay or if you're writing an essay. So suppose you want to use a line from a book or article that you found as part of your essay. Just include the author's last name and the page number where you found the material. If it's an online source with no page numbers, then you can skip that and just put the author's last name. An example here is a quote from a Justin Bieber biography, I guess. So this is a quote, and then at the end of the quote, to give credit to the author, we just have the last name and the page number. So we have the quote. You're going to notice there's going to be quotation marks on either end of the quote, and that's going to tell us that this is in fact quoted from another source. After the last quotation marks, you're going to have a parentheses, no period here, and then you're going to have the last name of the author, the page number, and then the period will go at the very end after the last parentheses. Another way to handle in-text citations is with signal phrases. So you can use the author's name in your sentence. You need only to include the page number as your citation. This is an example of a signal phrase. So once again, we have a quote, we have a quotation mark at the beginning and at the end, and then because the last name of the author was already mentioned within the sentence, I don't need to also have it in the parenthetical. So for this case, the parenthetical only includes the page number. If this was an online source with no page number, you wouldn't even need a parenthetical, because once again, you did mention the last name of the author in the sentence, so that is considered a citation. Once again, you're going to notice that the period is at the end of the parenthetical, not before, and that's going to go with any parenthetical that you do. Remember, any material you use that comes from a source needs an in-text citation and needs to be included on the works cited page. So what if you're just summarizing someone else's information? You still need a citation. Let's use a more academically sound source for the example from Stephen King's On Writing. So before finding success as a writer, Stephen King worked as a high school English teacher, a profession he admits zapped most of his creative energy. Or the same info could be presented like this. King said, quote, I liked my coworkers and I loved the kids, but by most Saturday afternoons I felt as if I'd spent the week with jumper cables clamped to my brain. Okay, so in this case we have a paraphrased information of this quote. So let's talk about a works cited page. Gives details more about where you found the information in your paper. So your works cited page is going to have the following information: the author, the title of the container, other contributors, version, number, publisher, publication date, and location. The works cited should include these 9 core elements if the information is available. If any of this information is not available, you just skip over to the next bit of information that is available. So that is the most important thing. Check for all this information. If it's there, great. If not, skip over and include all the information that you do have available to you. There's often more than one correct way to cite a source, and this is a quote from the MLA handbook. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit more detail on what each of these different things are. So we're going to always start with the author. So it's always going to be last name, first name. Then after that, you're going to have the name of the source. So this is either the book title, if there is one, if it is a chapter or an article that's published on a website, that's going to go second. And then it could also be a newspaper, magazine, academic journal article. Any of that stuff is going to go right after the author, and it's going to go in quotation marks. Then after that, you're going to have the container. So if it's just a standalone book, you're not going to have an article title, you're just going to have the book. So whatever it is, that's going to come right after. So you're going to have the last name, first name of the author, then the name of the article, if it is an article. If there's no article, you go straight to the container, and that's either going to be the name of the book, if you're citing the entire book, or if it's an article on a website, this is going to be the name of that website, name of that journal, name of that newspaper, whatever the container of the article is. Then you want to give any information about contributors mentioned on the title page, including the edited by, introduction by, translated by, illustrated by, or narrated by. Most online sources aren't going to have any of this information, but if you're citing a book, it might. Okay, and then you're also going to include any information about the version, edition, volume, number, or issue. Again, this is only going to be applicable for some sources, but not for all sources. Then you're going to have the name of the publisher, and that's where you're going to put any publication information that you have, and then the location. And then you're going to have the publish date for any articles or online materials, or the copyright date for printed materials. And then you're going to use the exact page number for printed materials, and the exact URL if it comes from an online source. Also punctuation, so definitely pay attention to this. So after each of the different parts, you're going to add the punctuation indicated here. So for author, title, and location, they will end with a period, and then everything else will end with a comma. And then you're going to put it all together, and it's going to go look something like this. You're going to notice that if there is a single page, you're just going to say P period in that single page. If it's a double page, it'll say PP period and then the page range. For the citation, which of the 9 core elements are included? So we've got the author, the title of the source, we have the publisher, publication date, and the location. Any of the missing information, we just skipped right over. Also notice that the title is italicized because it is a major work. So any major works, including the title of a book, title of a publication, title of a website, is going to be italicized. Okay, so let's try one of these together. We've got all this information here. And then what would the citation look like? It would look like this. A little bit more information about containers. You may need to add a little more info about where you found your information because databases, e-reading platforms, and media streaming services all host other published works. If you use any of these, you may just add an extra scoop or info to your citation. You want to use an article from an online journal database called Gale Group. So a citation might look like this. So we got the last name, first name, the name of the article, the name of the publication, which is distance learning, and then we've got some information about Information Age Publishing, which is the publisher. We've got the date, student resources and context, and Gale Group is going to be the database, and then we've got the URL. And this is a really long URL. A lot of the database articles have really long URLs, and that's totally fine. This would be a sample works cited page. You can see all the sources. They're going to have 1-inch margins. They're going to have a centered works cited title. And then you're going to be indenting all your second lines of your sources like they did here. And it's going to be about 1/2 inch. If you have any more questions, you can always go to the MLA handbook or visit the MLA site, and it's free to look at.